Hey everybody, how you doing? My name's Tyler. Welcome to the Mindful Movement. I'm here with my co-host Johnny.
How you doing?
Today we're gonna do something a little bit different, like we always do. We have Laura with us today. Laura is a breathwork instructor. Laura is in recovery herself. She's been through this journey for a long time. Fun fact: me and Laura have known each other for 8 years now.
Yes.
I have seen Laura in very different points in her life. I've seen her grow, I've seen her heal, I've seen her go the opposite direction as well, and then have to grow and heal again. So we have Laura today. We're gonna ask some cool questions and just kind of chop it up like we usually do, and give you guys some real raw and authentic recovery, and a message.
Faux show.
For show, right?
For show.
How's
I'm
everybody
excited
feeling today? Good?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
I don't know Laura at all, so I'm excited.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
kind of like not knowing,
Yeah.
just kind of see where it goes from there. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's almost better when you don't know somebody, because you get to like kind of unravel like the onion, like peel back the layers as you get to know them. So we'll have Johnny kind of, you want to just, since you don't know her, anything you want to know?
Loaded question.
Yeah, big loaded question.
I mean, where would you want to start? How'd you get here?
I think here in this podcast.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
which could be
that,
starting at the very beginning or whatever.
Yeah. So this morning I actually recorded a podcast with my friend. So I'll share a little bit about what I currently do at this stage in my life.
Yeah.
So I've been a breathwork specialist for 2 years. The reason I call myself a breathwork specialist is because I can give you a breath for any situation in your life. So anxiety, if you need some energy, if you need a full trauma release, I got you. Okay. Nice. So that is what changed my life, was breathwork. And now I'm a coach, a transformation and mindful coach. Well, I said mindset coach, I should say. So women I help, I have a women's empowerment program. So women that are in recovery like coming to my workshops or my events because it's something outside of just 12-step recovery all of the time. So taking a different approach to recovery is something I really pride myself on. And I do retreats. I do a lot of really awesome community events. So that's where I am currently.
Cool.
But it took a long time to get there.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about like the beginning, Like, how did this start for you?
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit about my substance abuse, just a little bit. I don't want to get stuck in that. But 14, started drinking, 18 was hard drugs, cocaine, upgraded to pills, upgraded to heroin. And then, when I used a needle, that changed my life.
Fuck yeah.
And then I'm like prostituting, and my dad's dying of cancer. I can't show up. He died. I couldn't even go to the funeral. I was that girl in Fort Lauderdale shooting flocka in her veins.
Yeah. Wow.
That was me. When you
I knew you looked familiar.
Yeah, right? Like, you saw me out there. I know.
Johnny was on the same streets.
And at that time, something told me to go to rehab. I literally stole $100 to pay for my insurance to go to detox. Like, I'm desperate when I'm stealing money to pay my insurance to go. So I did that, and like, thank God I did. And so I have a brand, it's called Divine Emergence. And I say this because I've totally emerged out of the darkness, and everything has been such divine timing, as it always is. So when I had checked myself into Sunrise Detox, and then I went to Insight to Recovery in Boynton, and in there my dad died. And I was at the time, I was so pissed off. Like, I hated my therapist and I hated my family, and I ran away from the treatment center. But I can look back now and be like, well, thank God I was in there, or I'd be dead too, and I wouldn't be speaking with you guys.
Yeah.
But it was a long journey between relapsing and recovery and relapsing and recovery. Like you just said, you've seen me in the Haven multiple times, and in facilities multiple times, halfway houses.
Yeah.
And when I knew I needed help, again, for the final time, I reached out to Austin Thomas. I love that man forever, because I said I need help, and he reached out immediately and got me back down here to Florida.
You were in Pittsburgh at the time?
I'm from Pittsburgh. So I was in between South Florida and Pittsburgh for years, until I finally was like, I had enough, because that point that you get to where you just want to die. You wake up and you're like, damn, I'm up again.
Yeah.
Did you come down here for treatment originally?
Yeah, originally. Okay. So I was telling him that the first place I went to was Palm Partners, and now the recovery team owns that building. So it's like full circle for me. So like, the first rehab I ever went to was Palm Partners. The last rehab I went to was the recovery team.
Yeah, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
And now I literally live right across the street from that place, that building.
No way.
Crazy how stuff like that happens. You know?
Yeah. So, and then I was back and forth. And then, so even right now, it's little over 2 years off of hard drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's
I
amazing.
am so proud of myself because COVID happened and I relapsed during COVID, like most of us did.
Yeah.
But during COVID, when I started to open myself up, and then shortly after I found breathwork. My partner at the time was going to do plant medicine. I couldn't because I'm in recovery or I'm on antidepressants, whatever. So breathwork found me. So I would go and I would do breathwork sessions every Friday at 10 a.m. because it was helping more than the talk therapy. It was helping more than the 12-step. It was helping more than any support that I had. So that's how I got here today.
That's cool that you found that, you know, and you found like an alternate route to recovery, because a lot of people don't, you know, like me and you are 12-step guys, you know, like been in the rooms. Like a lot of people in 12-step like programs don't believe in alternate paths, you know. They're very strict to like the 12 steps is the only thing that works. And, you know, like we've all seen it, like, you know, hands on, that there is other things that work, you know, like some people go to the gym, some people find God and get sober. Like you found breath work, which really kind of like, you know, sealed the deal for you. You know, it really changed the life, you know?
Yeah. And that's because my trauma was starting to come up for me. I was able to process it on my own and have my own experiences without the influence of someone else, a therapist who's never met me a day in my life, or a counselor who has read only out of a textbook and has never smoked crack in their life. Right. So how are you telling me about my experiences as a drug addict when you've never walked the shoes I've walked in? Yeah. That's just my personal opinion. And this comes from when my dad did die, my therapist wasn't in recovery and I wasn't allowed to go to his funeral. And I feel like if she was maybe an addict herself, maybe it would have been different. But that was resentment I've let go of a long time ago.
And too, like, I think then it's just too cut and dry. Like it's black and white with some of these people, right? Like maybe for someone it wasn't good for them to go to their dad's funeral, but for you, well, you know what I'm saying? But they make these blanket like decisions of like, we don't do that. It's like, how can you can't treat everyone the same. I mean, the disease I think is the same, but the way that you treat it is going to be different, you know? It depends on the person.
And we run into that a lot, like working in the field. You know, I don't think we've ever really like talked about it on camera. This is only our second podcast, but me and Johnny do work in the field. We help people get into treatment on a daily basis. I'm, you know, geared more towards civilians. Johnny's geared more towards veterans because he's a veteran himself. But, you know, that's what we do for a living outside of the podcast is, you know, we work on a daily basis with addicts and try to help them get better. And we've seen that when you treat everybody with that blanket approach, you start to see people leaving treatment against medical advice because you're treating somebody the same. You know, say you have a 50-year-old man and you have an 18-year-old kid. You can't treat them the same and expect the same results, you know, and that's what we run into a lot.
Yeah, because they think it's like one size fits all. So same thing with 12-step. I'm just sharing my experience, right? Yeah. So I love 12-step. That's where I met God for the first time. 12-step taught me how to have humility, how to admit my wrongs, how to let go of resentment, know when I'm living in fear or when I'm living in love. And then when we talk about, you know, step 11 is sought through prayer and meditation, but we forget that part. And service can look so different. Me being here today is service. Yep. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Me giving someone $5 on the side of the road is service. Me creating community events is service. It does not have to be me sitting across the table reading out of a book from 1980s, you know? And so, which is wonderful. Everybody needs a foundation. AA was my foundation and I love AA and like I owe my life to AA. But we get stuck there.
We do.
We get stuck. And there is a whole world. Like I hang out a lot in kava bars. I don't drink the kava. I don't drink the kratom, but the people there are so cool. And we do fun events there all of the time. But in recovery, kava bars are deemed bad. You shouldn't hang out there. I've met some of the coolest artists in kava bars. If we could channel our energy into art, into music, into creating events, community, because that's why we love 12-step. It gives us fellowship and community. But there's so many communities outside of that community, you know?
That share the same beliefs, right? That want the same things. It's about the end game too. You know, it's not always about like how you get there. It's what's at the end, you know?
And it doesn't matter like just because you're not in a meeting or not at a AA function doesn't mean that you have to be drinking or getting messed up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? So it's like we get sober but how do we have fun in sobriety?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that I really focus on too with my clients, with people I know, is like just having fun,
Mm-hmm.
because addiction is hard, trauma work is hard, it's all difficult. So let's have a good time too.
Yeah,
And working
absolutely.
like this, like work is great, but like this cannot be my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I like that. And a lot of the times too, like, and I know I've had this experience, and I'm sure you did too when you first got sober, like trying to wrap your head around like where to find fun, right? Did you have that experience? Like, how am I going to have fun and not be able to drink or not be able to get high? Like, we associate, you know, the drug with the fun.
Yeah,
Right?
but it's a
How
hard
was your
question. It's a hard
experience?
question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that I was so not having fun for a long fucking time.
Long time, yeah.
Before, you know, and so when I got sober, I found a great group. Like this last time, I'll talk, like the last time that I've stayed, you know, whatever, 5.5 years, I had a great group of guys in my sober house. I'm a gym guy. I loved going to the gym. It wasn't hard for me to find fun because I had been so miserable. You know what I mean? Like for me, like, and I think that's what's good about like my bottom. So, you know, we talked about it, and we'll talk more about it. Like, we're so low that like fun or whatever, feeling good wasn't that hard to accomplish because it was just not being dope sick or like literally that's where it started, right? Like waking up and not wanting to die, right? Even though maybe I wasn't dope sick, but I still didn't really want to live because I had such a fucking long way to go to get back to the surface to even start to, you know, like elevate. But like, yeah, I don't know. I you know, I don't even live in terms, you know, I can be pretty serious, but I can also fuck around. But like fun, what is fun? I don't know. Like everything is fun.
Everything is fun. I love that.
You know what I mean? Like
That's cool.
I don't, you know, like that's what I try. I tell my daughter that shit, man. Like we'll go do something great, and we're in the middle of it. She's like, "What are we doing next?" I'm like,
Next. Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. No, I don't say that, but
No,
you know,
I know.
I'm like, sweetheart, enjoy the moment. Like, what do
moment, the
and then,
present
but that's a
moment.
good like lesson for me too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, what is fun? Do I have to
Yeah.
go on a roller coaster 24/7 to
like
like
that.
enjoy my life?
Yeah, I like that because we do try to like overcomplicate things,
And
you
it can
know?
be so simple.
So simple.
I
Yeah.
love that you just said that. I think too, that's why like I am the way that I am, and you, like, because we've lived in like these dark depths.
Yeah.
And it's like just sitting here talking can be such a great time because there was a time where we didn't have conversations with anyone, just our crack dealer or whatever, you know?
Dude,
Like-
laughing at his shitty jokes, you know, like
It's the
I
worst.
didn't laugh or smile for a year, but
Or I appreciate you.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this I'm like, and I'm in my mind, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I have to laugh at this fucking scumbag.
I remember the same thing.
You know?
Yeah, I had those same feelings,
Yeah,
bro. Or
dude,
like
it's
telling the
like-
drug dealer, like, I appreciate you, my brother. Like,
me
you
the-
know, you're
give me the
killing
bigger-
me, dude. Like, yeah, give me the bigger bag.
Give me the bigger 20.
Please,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. Which one of those weighs 0.1 more?
So yeah, I think you know, people are like, well, happiness or joy. I don't know, man. I try not to live in any of those terms, man. All those labels.
Yeah.
The labels,
dude.
the labels.
I like that.
Yeah.
I've never heard you say that before. That's really cool. Yeah, just try to live in the moment.
I can dig deep sometimes.
Yeah,
this.
yeah, when you need to, right?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. You go back. So when you went to Sunrise, was that the first time you went to treat, or was that the last time, or that was one of the middle?
It was one of the middle ones.
where you paid $100.
I just had to pay $100 because my insurance was
Okay.
late,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I needed my insurance to get kicked on, so I
Yeah.
could go to detox.
That's-
You know what? You know that insurance card is your black card down here in South
yeah.
Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is anymore, but back in 2015,
yeah.
2016, that was how I lived.
What was the final? What was the like the final time you came when Austin called you?
So
Right.
that was 2017.
Yeah. Or let's just go back to let's go to the final time you
We'll
used.
go there. The final time I used.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was with my ex-partner.
Uh-huh.
And it was crazy. Actually, I was so sick from the relationship that I was in that I was losing my hair. I was losing weight. I had a thyroid issue.
I remember that.
That was messed up. I looked like I was smoking crack, but I was completely sober. And I was sick.
Yeah.
And so eventually I was at work and I was like, I just need a Xanax because my heart was like this, like all the time.
Yeah.
I couldn't even sleep because my heart was pounding. And finally I was like, I need a Xanax. And I literally got a Xanax from this girl at work and I had a needle in my arm that night. Hadn't done dope in years. Like that's how fast it happened.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then I'm using, and then I get my partner, and then she starts using. You know,
Bad.
it was
so
bad.
bad.
And mind you, were like working for like the same company. It was crazy. So anyway, we were together, and then I went to detox. I forget what detox center I went to, but I'm like, I'm about to go on a trip with the girls in my AA fellowship. I'm sitting in detox, and this was what, 2 years ago, 30 years old. And my friends 12-step me that night.
Yeah.
I've never been 12-step before.
Right.
So, you know, when
Yeah.
they come into your house and they're knocking on your door and they're waiting for you to finish your bag to take you somewhere, I was like, whoa, like I have friends that care.
Yeah.
But the disease was so strong in there. I couldn't wait to get out, and like got out and used. And then it was just like, there was a child involved in the home. And when the father had come over, I was like, I gotta go. And I just raised my hand, went to a meeting that night, I said, I need help. And I went through my steps and then started sponsoring women. And I was like, okay. Because I've drifted away from when COVID hit and the meetings got shut down. I was only newly sober. So like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. And I'm not an online person, even to this day.
No,
I
the
like
energy, right?
to be in
it's horrible.
person.
Yeah.
So that was the last time I had used, and then I went back to 12-step, but then it was like the breath work, and then I became a facilitator, and then I started just really diving deep into my own journeys. Yeah, and I have had, you know, I have participated in some psychedelic assisted therapies as well that have helped me too, but I'm not going to promote that. That is just for me and only me, you know, and it was a really beautiful, profound experience. But I'll tell you that you can get to those same psychedelic states with your own breath. So I don't know if you know that. Have you done breath work?
Yeah, I'll tell you about mine. Go ahead.
Yeah?
I'll tell you about my
Okay.
experience.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, and I didn't know that until like after. So, and I've, my deepest trauma has come up for me. And then I can look back now and it's like, people are like, oh, weed is the gateway drug. No, trauma is the gateway drug.
Right.
I'm sorry. There's something that has happened to you in your life that you cannot stop smoking crack, that you can't quit shooting dope, but we're not getting to the root of it. The breath work will get to the root of it. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. And even for me, you know, like, and I don't share about like the stuff that I go through like on a daily basis because of my professional life and stuff, but you know a lot about me, right?
Yeah.
Probably a little too much. I probably told you a little too much information, but I did breath work with you for the first time and I couldn't believe like what my body was experiencing, you know, just by breathing. Like my hand started to get numb. And I think at one point, like I go to sit up and she like was standing next to me. She pushed my like chest down and I'm like, I'm having a stroke. She's like, no, you're not having a stroke. I'm like, no, I am. Like, my hands are like tingling. Half of my face is tingling. She's like, this is normal. And I never thought that you could get to like this state of like awakening, like from just breathing. You know, it's wild, like when you really get into it. But it helped me, you know, like with what I was going through in my life at that time, like some personal issues, like it really helped me get through them, you know. And I did a couple sessions with Laura and it was transformational for me. You know, it was really, really cool. Like, just like the trauma release, like we talk about. And that was cool what you said, like, trauma is the gateway drug. I've never heard that before. Like, nobody's ever said that. And that makes so much sense because, like, if we look at, 99% of addicts, like, it's somewhat trauma-based, you know? Like, the reason we use is trauma-based or the reason that we continue to use is trauma-based.
So I was going to say, for me, it was like the trauma that I created.
Correct, yeah, same.
In my addiction propelled me to continue, you know what I mean? To not have to feel that shit.
Yeah.
You know, I used, you know, I used heroin to calm my voice, not the voice, I didn't have voices, but you know, the thoughts in my head. And when I came back from overseas and like the hypervigilance and, you know, the lack of like being able to feel emotions and my mind starting to say like, you know, like feeling guilt and shame about that because I had a little 1-year-old daughter. And, so that's why I did heroin, and then I used cocaine and then crack, whatever, and then shooting methamphetamines, depending on what state you're in. You know what I mean?
Whatever you could get.
I got sober in Texas, so before that I was shooting meth there too. But it was like anything to make me feel alive, you know? Yeah. That's why I was doing those. But as I started doing more and more of them, losing the wife, losing the kid, you know, doing a lot of causing a lot of trauma throughout anyone I touch. You know, that was my trauma, was the things that I was starting to do to them and the things I was doing in the street and the things that it means to get more. That trauma started to kind of, you know, so now you're just using, now it's like just a vicious cycle. I'm not even using for the hypervigilance from Afghanistan anymore. You know what I mean? I'm using because I hate myself because I just fucking threw away a little beautiful daughter and a wife, you know?
So you were overseas, experienced that, came back, and then you were on drugs.
Yeah, I mean, the long
Essentially.
and short of it, yeah. It's
Yeah,
been 8
well,
years.
I just want to say thank you because I have a brother who was overseas, and like I always try to share this with him because I love to see men and women who come from that environment. And like I'll tell you something after we're done recording that I'd like to share with you.
Sure.
But and he's still very stuck in his pain and his cycle.
Yeah.
And so when I see, you know, people like yourself who go over there, come back, go through addiction, and then completely turn their lives around, it's like there's really no excuse, you know.
Right.
And their recovery is possible, happiness is possible, joy is possible, freedom is possible, and you know, you're a walking testament to that. But
Yeah.
people get so stuck in their pain and their trauma that they think that like there's no way out.
Yeah.
So when I see you, and like I see my brother, and he's still drinking heavy, still drugging heavy for like maybe 12 years now since he's been back. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I would love for him to do breath work. I would love for him to just try something.
Right.
You know, something.
That's what it's about. You got to. It has to
Anything.
be willingness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you say there's no excuse, but there's also every excuse. You know what I'm saying? Like we know there's no excuse, but when you're in the middle of it, you know, you don't think you're gonna get out. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah, you never see a way out.
I always ask, like, what the last time you used, like, you know, in this podcast, I'll ask it every time, and I always, you know, do if we're talking to somebody, it's like, what's the feeling? Because, you know, last time I ever put a needle in my arm wasn't. You know, I was homeless sort of, but I had been way more homeless before.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't out of drugs. Usually that's when I go to detox when I'm out of drug or ask for help because I had no other means of getting high.
Yeah.
I had plenty of drugs. For me, it was like this feeling of like, I don't know, and I consider it a spiritual experience, right? Like that's all, you know, exclusive to ourselves. But of the drugs and alcohol stopped working. I was looking for a vein. I couldn't find one, and boom. Something came over me like, you're gonna find a vein, you're not gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like this shit ain't gonna work anymore. The jig is up, and that's like the scariest I've ever been. But like that was my bottom to where I had no choice but to try something else. Yeah. You know, and I was 37, right? I came to my first AA meeting at 17. I think we talked about this last week.
Wow.
So that's 20 years of like seeing people who had been through what I've been through and just not hearing the fucking message. Yeah. But the seeds are being planted, right? And so I think that's the thing, right? Like I guess I had a little bit of hope because I had heard people recover before. But like if you don't have that hope and a little bit of willingness, like what are you going to try? Why would you try?
Why?
If you don't think it's going to work. So that's why I say that in your mind, you have every excuse in the book because you don't think it's going to work, you know? I think
because you've convinced yourself so many times that it doesn't, you know? And it's hard for like the human brain to kind of comprehend is we've tried this so many times and it hasn't worked. Why is this time any different? Yeah. Right? And you start to play that through your head.
And something I'm thinking of too is like we tell that story to ourselves that we're broken, that we're worthless, that we don't deserve to not be addicted, or we don't deserve community. But I love what you just said, like when it stopped working, like you just know when you're done. You just know when you're done and you've had enough and your soul has had enough. Some people never get that. Oh, and last thing is like when we go into therapy or we like get put on pharmaceuticals too, and that's always like putting a Band-Aid or fixing. It helps tremendously, you know, in the beginning. But that too, right? How are we get so stuck. Okay, if I'm not an addict anymore, but now I'm depressed and now I'm bipolar and I'm going to own these diagnoses, but I'm so much more than that. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And who's not depressed and who doesn't have bipolar when they've been shooting cocaine and heroin and like playing, you know, playing pharmacist with street drugs. You know what I mean? And you take away meth from me, and now my serotonin, everything crashes down. And now, you say I'm bipolar, put me on bipolar meds, so my brain doesn't get to naturally come back to, you know.
Yeah, that baseline.
Yeah.
We see that a lot too in treatment, right? Like people just pump these clients with medications, but like how do you give somebody a medication when you're not at their baseline? Like that's the whole point of like why we detox patients, right? Is to get them to a baseline so that we can actually start the work. Yeah. You know, you need that baseline before you do anything else. So you get these clients, they come in, they have all these symptoms that are drug related or drug induced, and then what? You give them SSRIs?
Yeah.
And now they're
and
way
then,
worse off.
when they come back too, when they're back in detox, I need my Boost bar, I need my Clonidine, I need my gabapentin. Okay, but you weren't taking that just out on the street. I know damn well you weren't.
Yeah.
So now
your
you
blood
need
pressure was fine.
You didn't pick your script up for 3 months.
Yeah.
Oh, now you need it. Okay. So, but it's those stories that we tell ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like that
bizarre.
second voice. We all have like these two
yeah.
people in our head. Like one's trying to keep us alive and one like wants us dead on a daily basis. Like, imagine waking up every day and like your brain is telling you to kill yourself. Yeah. But the other side of your brain's telling you, no, don't do it. And it's like the angel and the devil kind of thing that we all experience on a daily basis, clean and sober, right? Like, so like when we're getting high, we have that. But when we get sober, we have the same thing.
We still have it.
If you don't address it, the devil gets louder, right?
Yeah.
That good side doesn't speak over.
Yeah. Yeah. So then finding things to fill my time, to fill my life,
Exactly.
to make me feel useful in this world and be of service.
Yeah. Find that purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like I have.
Yeah. You definitely found your purpose over the years. Yeah. Because like I said, I've known you through, living in halfway house, causing chaos to a certain extent, and then like getting sober and working, I think you were a server at the time and like rushing to PDQ to like get to alumni events. Like community was important from you, like off the rip. Like I remember that, like you like rushing out of work to get to an event, like where it's just people that have been through the treatment center. We used to take them to PDQ every Wednesday. Okay. So we'd go to a meeting. They'd all go in the meeting. Me and Spence would kind of chop it up with them and we'd hang out for a little bit. We'd go to PDQ, buy everybody like chicken sandwiches. And it was like a way to get like all the alumni together once a week, just to kind of chop it up, But she would like leave work like 10 minutes early just to like get to that event, just to be around the community,
Yeah,
and then I remember,
so emotional.
yeah. And then I remember you getting like into that like relationship, like that toxic relationship, and like me and you having conversations of like, yo, Ty, like I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. Like I remember like those deep conversations with you, like I don't kind of know what to do right now, and then you took that step, and I want to talk a little bit about that, like you taking that step like into fear, like you were so scared to leave. But you left, right? And then you quit your job shortly after that and just completely took off on your own path and like built this beautiful life. Like talk to us a little bit about that, like getting past that trauma and being able to like, get out of an abusive relationship, quit your 9-to-5 job and pursue something that you wanted to do, something that you love,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So first of all, I just want to touch on the alumni thing, because as you're talking about that, I'm getting emotional because community is still really important to me. And I never looked at it that way. So you bringing that up is like, wow, I really did care about community back
since
then
day one.
too.
Yeah.
And then I worked, so I've only been a waitress, and then I've only worked at the Haven Detox as their alumni coordinator before this. So those are the only 2 careers that I've known, was treatment, drugs and alcohol. And I loved running groups there. I like really loved that. I was like, oh, I could do this. So that was like, I guess, my introduction into facilitating. Whoa, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I knew this conversation would be awesome. So yeah, community has always been important. But when you're on drugs and alcohol, right? You put down the drugs and alcohol, then it's the sex, the relationships. We all do it. We all do it. Yeah. We are human, and when we get off of drugs, we're horny. Like we want to just be loved. Okay. So, and then you're saying, oh, the community. So I don't really have like family support. So TRT became my family. You guys are my family. Yeah. Like to this day.
I know, you say it all the time. Almost every time we talk.
I went to the Christmas dinner this past year. Like y'all are family. Like Sam's about to have a baby. Like, like girls that I lived in halfway with years ago. We still talk. So that's awesome. And then I got into, then it's like not the drugs and alcohol. Now it's the sex and the relationships, dating. I just want to be loved. Oh, and then I found someone to love me. But now I'm a codependent, and there's all these 12-step programs for all these things. But now I'm codependent during COVID and meetings are shut down. So imagine how on fire this relationship is. Like we are on fire, and I've completely lost myself again because now you're my drug. Yep. You are my drug. Yep. And I'm not going to 12-step for you. Like, no. So abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, drug addiction. Eventually I was just in jail 2 years ago at gun club. I got arrested for domestic. But it happens. Yeah, absolutely. Like shit happens, and I'm human. Absolutely. I wasn't charged with anything. We were just scrambling around, and the police were called, and I'm sitting in this jail cell, sober as can be, so pissed off. Like, why am I why am I in jail right now? What is
how did
my
this happen?
life?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Because I'm with someone who's not good for me, because that's what I feel like I'm worth.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then I finally got out of that, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was living in an Airbnb, still completely sober, like living in an Airbnb. At this time, I quit vaping, like nicotine vapes. At this time, I'm like, I'm going to buy a vape. And like, I thought that was so bad of me. I'm like, Mom, I'm buying a vape, you know? But when you get sober, you think these things, you know? So anyway, it was just tumultuous, and I had to go through a whole grieving process, and then the job thing, and then I just quit my job, and I was like, F this, I'm done. So I left 4-year relationship and a 4-year job less than a year, well, I guess a year ago now. So I just quit my job in January. That's it. But and so far I've been out of the country. I'm going out of the country again, and I have work out of state in different states at retreats.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And it happens so quick,
So
you know,
quick.
but it just shows like what happens like when we step out of fear, you know, like that's the whole thing. Like as addicts, like we live in this fear. And then when we realize like you take a pinky step out or a big toe step out, and this is easy. I could do this, you know, and then you start to like chase your dreams, and you start to accomplish all these things rapidly because we're so good at everything we do. You know, like we mastered, you know, we talked about in the last episode, I had a $500 a day habit and no job. And I got $500 every day. There's people out there that can't make their rent, you know? So like anything that we get into, we do it like passionately, you know? Like we just jump in and we do it wholeheartedly, and we kill like whatever we touch, you know? Like we do the best at it. But you have to step out of that fear first, you know? Because if you don't, you'll be stuck. And that's what happens. We keep getting high.
Yeah. Fear sucks.
Sucks.
Or should I say not walking through it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because fear could be beneficial, right?
Yeah.
Fear
I mean,
kind of,
you know, you don't get courage without the absence of fear.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
you have
need
to
the fear.
You have to have the fear. It's what you do with it. But yeah, I mean, and it sucks when you know that you should do something and you don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, most people.
That
The
eats at
regret.
me. I still have those issues, you know. Like there's certain things, and we've talked about them. You know, it's like you know you shouldn't be just sitting there and allowing that to do it to fear to win over. You know what I mean? And it's like, or a person to win. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like just go for it, and you don't, and then you feel like then that guilt and shame starts coming back from me at least. You know, I start like, man. Like I'm a bitch, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And,
what kind of man am I? Yeah.
Yeah. But then when you walk through it, then it's you know, it's always gratifying. To me, you know. So.
Yeah, and it's like talking about that present moment again, and it's like, but if I'm living in fear of the future and I haven't even been through it, I'm putting myself through it twice. Okay, that's not fair to me.
Yeah.
And fear and love, right? Those are really the only two emotions we're born with. So it's like when you're operating, okay, is this out of fear or is this out of love? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And always ask yourself those questions. And I always ask clients I work with, you know, is this out of fear or love? Like I had a woman yesterday ask me to validate her on the phone, and I said, I'm not doing that for you, and I'm not giving that to you right now. You need to learn how to validate yourself.
Wow.
Yeah. She didn't like that.
No, she didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I'm a challenger.
She'll
I'm
like
gonna
it later
challenge
though.
people.
She'll like it later. She'll come back,
Exactly.
you know, and it's like, yeah, we say that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, dude, hate me now. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you want?
Yeah. You'll love me
Exactly.
next
You'll
week.
see later. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Call. I have like a friend. He's not. I was gonna say a sponsee. I feel like he's a sponsee, and he knows. But I'm like, dude, I'm sorry to always burst your bubble, and I give it to him real, and I'm like, you're probably not gonna like me right now, but you know, next week you're gonna call me. We've been doing this for years. You know what I mean? 'Cause he's like my little brother. I met him in treatment. And he,
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Kinda took him under your wing.
Well, yeah, and we used together and everything else. Okay. You know what I'm saying? But like, he came through here. You know, and he's sober living, and we have the same conversations. And then he'll come back and be like, you were right. Well, maybe not. He doesn't think I'm right, but I'm right that he'll come back. You know what I mean? He's like, he still doesn't.
He's not giving you the whole thing.
No.
Yeah.
But I think too with fear, you know, I pride myself. Like I think I have a lot of faith now, and then that's that's the story I tell myself. Like if I'm scared to do something, it's like, what will happen to your faith? You know what I mean? Like what happened to your faith if I do? You know that like. If I do the right steps to make a decision, why would I not make the decision, right? Like I don't want to be like, you know, like rush into something. But if I'm really, and I know that I should be doing it and I don't, like where's my faith? You know, and that's a big problem for me because like I've come a long way, right? Like like I said, from homelessness, whatever, like, you know, all the different things, jails, institutions, and death, checked all those boxes, right? And it's like, and that's all been because I started to have faith, right? Like the principle, the third step is faith, right? You know, I got honesty, then I have some hope, and then that hope turns into faith because I start seeing I just take the actions because you did it, so I hope that it can work for me, and now I see some like, I see it coming true, right? Like some of the actions I'm taking are starting to like come to fruition.
Yeah.
So now I have faith. And so now I'm years in. Why would I not be walking in that faith? You know what I mean? Like when I need to take another opportunity or, you know, it's jobs, right? Like when I came over to the Haven, right? Like, you know, there was a lot of fear involved, but it's all financial fear. But it's like every time that I've thought about doing the right thing and I know in my heart it's the right thing, and then I do it, it works out.
Yeah.
The money works out. The fucking everything works out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you also like, you're always worried about making somebody else's life okay too, right? Like you could pride yourself in that you go out of your way to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And Inky, I don't know if you guys know who Inky Johnson is, but he's like a motivational speaker.
Inky,
and Inky says that
I love that you know Inky.
I love Inky, bro.
Yeah.
So
You
guys
gotta
are
get
gonna
to know
hear
Inky.
me.
I gotta know
I'm gonna
Inky.
quote Inky on this podcast all the time, probably because he got me through. So when I started working at the Haven, and you probably remember this, I worked from 7 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. It was the worst shift. I mopped the floors. I did all like the work nobody else wanted to do. But that's how I was raised. My dad told me if you want to get anywhere in life, you have to be willing to do what nobody else is willing to do, right? So I would put Inky on in my headphones and clean the facility. And he would motivate me to keep going, you know? Like I wanted to quit every night. Like I'm tired of this. I'm so tired. I got no sleep. I'm not, like my whole sleep schedule, everything was jacked up. But Inky got me through a lot of the stuff. But Inky says, as long as you make sure that somebody else's life is okay, God will always make sure that your life is okay. And that's always stuck with me for a long time, like helping people and like
He's got
working in the
bars,
field.
kid.
Oh,
He's got bars.
He's
bars.
here in Florida?
No, so Inky Johnson was, he grew up in like a really, really low class neighborhood, 10 kids, like on a mattress, like, you know, and he came out of the gutter and like played professional, or was about to play professional football.
That's the whole thing.
He got hurt in college, so he paralyzed the right side of his body. He still showed up to practice and ran with the dudes, but it was like what, 4 or 5 games.
He lost his whole career out the window. He was going to be like a top draft
Top
pick.
30, yeah.
And you know, and he came, sharing like a 2-bedroom with 10 people. He was ready to bring everyone up with him, and he was a good God fearing guy and everything. And then he did severed some artery, whatever the case is. The career just went immediately, and like now he's a motivational speaker. But he talks about how he can't, you know, he didn't know what he was going to do with his life.
Yeah,
dude, he's got some. I can't even. I'm not even gonna.
We can get into it for years. Yeah,
well, buddy, that dude.
I'll send you some stuff.
Okay.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Love, yes.
Yeah, and he talks in front of thousands and thousands of people. And not one person's looking at their phone. Not one person's taking a sip of their drink. Nothing. You're so stuck on him. But like that quote always stuck with me, you know, like as long as I make sure that somebody else's life is okay, like God will always take care of me.
It's so cool that you listen to him because, and like none of his stories, drug addiction,
nothing,
or anything, you know, and like he is one of the like 3 main guys that I listen to, like YouTube's, and like I've watched every one of his, like, you know, he speaks in front of like all these huge like NFL teams, college teams, and he speaks in front of like huge corporations. And I've listened to every one of his, dude. And he's like, none of it is anything to do with the life that I've lived, but I can connect with everything that motherfucker says, dude. It's unbelievable. Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, he talks about like running barefoot in the street and like telling his cousin, like, I'm getting us to the NFL. And his cousin's like, we're going inside to play video games. And he's like, I'm running. Like, I got to go to the NFL. Well, his mom would pick him up from like football practice, and it would be night. You know, they only had one car. So he'd have to sit there for a couple of hours and wait for his mom. And he would ask his mom to turn the lights on, light the field up so that he could run suicides. Talking about a 7-8-year-old kid, you know, and then he built this whole thing. But you have to watch him. It's powerful. It's so powerful how he speaks. It's really, really cool. It really is.
I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
So I did Breathwork.
Yes,
there
it
is.
We've been waiting for this.
Yeah. Well, I was early in sobriety. I've done it a couple times.
Okay.
And I see people around me crying, and I know it works, you know. And the woman who did it with me, she was my therapist in treatment. One of the few that I think it was very helpful to me. We keep in touch to this day. I guess I consider us friends now.
Yeah.
So she was very good at doing a breath work. But like my whole experience was always, and I haven't done it in years. I was very early in sobriety last time, but like I could feel the shit coming to like the edge of my, like literally I could feel emotion or whatever the case is. And again, I wish you, like, I like crying. You know what I mean? Like make me cry. I'll cry like a baby. And if you think I'm a bitch for that, like,
You're not.
So be it.
prove it. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
Come show me.
but like I love emotion now, right? We were back, not to get too in the weeds, the SSNRIs, right? Like the VA put me on so many meds. A lot of my guilt and shame is around I couldn't love or feel emotions for my kid due to substances and those pharmaceuticals, you know? And so I had a real problem with emotion, and I would do breath work and I would feel the emotion like get to the edge of my fingers, dude. But the problem is I would never fully surrender maybe or whatever and release it. You know what I'm saying? So fuck, dude, I would have this anxiety.
And
then the breath work would end, you know, and I'd be starving, right? Because it makes you hungry. I don't know why. I was like right before lunch. Like I think I was still in treatment. But I knew it worked because I could feel it, but it just wasn't, is that what it is? Surrender?
Yeah,
you know?
so surrendering. And so, you know, when a dog gets scared and it shakes and it barks and it cries, it's catharsis. They're releasing their emotion, okay? Maybe in combat too, you're screaming, releasing emotion. But when we're in this setting and your boss pisses you off, okay, you can't be like, scream at him.
You could curse.
You could curse, but you can't scream at him.
He's saying you can curse.
I'm saying you can curse. You're allowed to curse if you want. Yeah.
But you want to just like say like fuck you to your boss, but you can't because you're in an office setting, whatever. So you're storing this emotion inside of you. So same thing when you go through things as a child and maybe like your mom says no and you get upset and you start crying. Usually for boys or men, you're a man, don't cry. Like you're a man, don't cry. So we're stuffing that. So the breath work, yes, 100% is coming out. So in my sessions, I am big on vocalization. So cathartically releasing, because the energy is coming out. Where is it going? We need it. I've had complete non-dual experiences. So completely separated from my ego, my body in breath work from screaming. So I'll be in my bedroom floor, like breathing, screaming. And then I like really transcend. And it's so crazy.
Do people call 911? Like the neighbors?
You know, I was working with this girl who was screaming outside of her house and they got a little bit worried. Yeah, they were worried. Most of the time it's like in studios, but that was funny. I have a roommate and he actually was home and I thought he left. I was like, okay, bet I'm gonna lock the door. Like I'm gonna go breathe and like get crazy in there. And like I get done, and I come out and I'm like all like I feel like I just like tripped my ass off. Okay, I'm like
it was heavy.
And I come out and I look at him and he's like, I heard you. And I'm like, cool. Cool. So, but yeah, I've had really beautiful. So in my sessions, I just did one on Sunday, but everyone is vocally releasing. And then usually an emotion will come through after that. You'll start crying. But all of our trauma gets stored in the body. The breath work shuts down our thinking mind. The prefrontal cortex quiets it, and then enters our subconscious. Our subconscious controls our body.
Break this. So you're breaking down what happens. Start.
So we're breathing in and out through the mouth for an extended period of time. This comes from holotropic breath work, which was created in the 70s when they were using psychedelics on veterans, and then the ban on psychedelics happened. So they created holotropic breath work. Okay. That's where this comes from.
Good to know.
Wow.
That's where this comes from.
I didn't know that.
So
either.
instead of psychedelics, they replaced it with breath work. So we're over oxygenating the body. So we're decreasing our CO2. So actually your cerebral blood flow from your spine to your brain is impaired. So this is why your thinking, your thoughts just quiet. And then you enter your subconscious, which controls your body. So my dog died. Maybe I'm storing it in my hip, or maybe I was raped and I'm storing it in like my sacral area. Like women store trauma in their hips a lot. You know, you see women with wide hips, probably has some sexual trauma. So anyway, it's storing in our body. So the breath is going to those places and it's moving the emotions, moving the energy. And so this is called tetany. If your hands go like this, right? You're holding on. So you were completely right. Like, oh, it's coming to the surface. I'm still holding on to it. You're not releasing it. So where is it going? Right. It's going back inside of you. It's still in you. Oh, yeah. Right? We didn't release it. So
I'm not cured.
We're not cured. No, we're not cured.
Far.
So in breathwork, we have to release it. And so whether that looks like punching, screaming, crying, moving your hips around, moving your body, it needs somewhere to go.
To release. Yeah. Yeah, I experienced that too. You know,
I know,
I told you when I was there, I'm like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to do any of this.
Oh,
I'm
God.
telling you, you know, there's no way that you making me breathe is going to get this emotion out of me and crying. And then all of a sudden I'm crying and like convulsing on the floor. Like, you know, I remember like moving my hands or like kicking my feet, and she comes over and she's like, you know, putting a hand on it. She's like, it's okay. And I'm like crying, like dumping emotion. And then she's like, I told you.
Yeah.
I told you it was going to happen. And I'm like, no, like that did not happen, Laura. And we're not going to tell anybody that this happened, you know? But we had fun, man. And it was good, you know, just to be able to like release that like emotion. And it's like, you're trying to figure out where it's coming from. But it, like she said, you know, it gets stored in your body. We're energy, right? That's all we are. Our being is energy. We're created
I'm big
out
on
of
energy. I was never until I got sober and I could actually feel it.
And you can feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I feel everything. And I'm like, this is so cool. I told my friend Michelle, I said, today, I don't know what conversations I'm going to have. I don't know what emotions I'm going to feel. And that's every day of our lives. Like, tell me you don't know. Like, sometimes you get the most unexpected phone call, and it could be great news. It could be terrible news. We don't know. But then that's going to change our whole day.
Yeah.
And we don't know that when we wake up in the morning, what we're going to have.
Yeah.
Like, even this conversation right now, I didn't know it was going to be like this. This
No.
is awesome.
Yeah. And that's why me and Johnny like the unscripted stuff, you know, like why come in here with questions and then we give you the questions and then you rehearse them, and then it kind of like, we want this to be raw, you know, like our conversation right now, just natural conversation that's going to be able to help somebody, you know, like we could change somebody's life right now. Somebody could be their whole lives trying to get sober, and now you're on this camera and like they heard one thing you said change somebody's life, you know, and we don't even know. That's the coolest part about this, you know, is like we're changing people's lives and we don't even know who they are. We've never talked to them, but like that's how powerful like our message is, you know, that we've been through this. We went to the gutter, we crawled our way out with bloody hands, you know, and like made this work. Yeah, it's amazing. It's like it's a blessing, you know, the three of us are even alive, you know.
Bloody hands, I never heard that.
Yeah, I just made that one up.
That's good, man.
Yeah, I never heard that one either.
So do you still like going to meetings?
I'll go to meetings.
Yeah.
I'm not fully immersed.
Yeah.
I think that my life has taken a different route at this time,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I bet you still live by the principles, though.
Of course.
See, that's what it's about,
Of
right?
course.
See, and I love talking about this because I do go to meetings.
Yeah.
I'm not a big book thumper, but like
You enjoy it.
I am like doing everything in AA I did at day one, but I love when people don't. Like, you don't have to. You know what I mean? And I think it's important to know that. I think early on it's a big thing, but
in the
I think
beginning,
people don't even like. You got people at 20 years in AA go to a meeting probably every day that don't even know that there's principles behind each step.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
that's what the 12 steps does, you know? And so it's like if you can continue, like you found God in the 12 steps. Like that's actually what the book says.
My fifth step, first fifth step experience ever, mind you, I was in and out. I finally was like, okay, let me do this step work. Because
Same.
my first fifth step experience on Boynton Beach Inlet was the first time I met God. After I dumped all that out and I'm sitting on this bench and I completely like meditated and like felt this power, that was the first experience I've ever felt energetically.
I love that.
Yeah.
With
and that's
my
what
creator.
the steps are said to do. It's not like do all this other bullshit that you hear. It's like to bring you closer to a power greater than yourself, whatever you want to call
That's
that
it.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Speaking the Boynton Beach Inlet, I used to be homeless over there.
Really?
Yeah, I
You were
saw
a beach
God some
sleeper?
other ways over under those lifeguard stands, bro. Let me tell you something.
I love that beach because
yeah.
it has so much. I used to get high at that beach.
Yeah.
I did my
Because it was
first
24
fifth step.
hours. You could park there.
Uh-huh.
You could park there because people were fishing.
Fishing,
so you
yeah.
could
So
like
good.
park if you have a vehicle. God,
I think I might
Really,
actually
yeah.
do my birthday party there in a couple weeks. If you want to
Really?
come, you're
We're
invited.
coming.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we're
throw a
coming.
birthday
Yeah.
bash because my last few birthdays have been like.
Yeah.
So I want to do something fun.
Cool. Yeah. We'll come.
Yeah, come
Absolutely,
over.
yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Everyone's
definitely.
invited.
Maybe we'll do a breathwork session.
Do
Yeah.
a breath work. We'll spin some fire.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too. Talk about that a little bit. So you got into this, it's so cool. And I'm showing you some videos of her doing it afterwards. But just explain to like us like what that does for you.
Yeah, so I went to a festival for the first time last year, actually. I just went for one night and it was so cool. I had never been to a festival really. And just like the camping and the camaraderie, and we did breath work and we did tantra and we did just connection, and it allowed me to actually connect with men in a really safe way and allowed me to trust men again. So this is an experience I wouldn't have had experience if I didn't go there. So then I meet all these awesome people, and then I see them spinning fire. So like swords or poi or dragon staff, and for like 3 hours I'm just like watching these people spin this fire. I'm like, this is so cool. I used to be on heroin, so I never go to festivals and I've never seen this. So I'm like, wow, this is cool. And then I just bought a prop and I just started playing with it, teaching myself. And so like these are what I'm talking about, like little moments where I have so much fun by myself. It's just like practicing, because in addiction I never had interest. And so I want to go back to what you said. When I first got sober, I wanted to answer the question that if someone said, hey, what do you like to do for fun, I could give them an answer.
Right.
That is all I wanted in sobriety. And now it's like I can give you like a whole list of things.
I got
that
a book
I love.
of it.
Yeah, it's like I can't give you an answer because it's everything.
It's everything. Exactly. And so the fire stuff was like, and then I just started hanging out with the fire community, and now I'm facilitating breath work at a fire retreat.
So there's a fire community.
There's
we gotta go.
Fire
Me
community.
and you have to go. Bring your daughter one night. It's
I'm not bringing my daughter.
nuts.
It's really cool.
Well, no, they just like, they like spin. That's what a fire community is. They all play with fire. Yeah. But you're from a safe distance watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think tonight. Also, there's a drum circle tonight in Delray. They do that every Wednesday. It's been going on for the last 10 years.
Really?
It's a community event. Free
Is that
community
Veterans
event.
Park? Is it the park?
It's at Old School Square. So like down
Atlantic. Where they kind of do the
where the tree is.
Yeah.
So every Wednesday for the last 10 years, they do that. And then we'll go to the Kava Bar and go spin some fire. But I train new breathwork facilitators. So we have training tonight. So then after I'll go to the Kava Bar and
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what is, we asked this, but I think I know. So tell me if I'm wrong. What's different this time? Is it the breathwork? Would you say?
It's the breath work. It's the self-love. It's the awareness. It's my connection to the divine. It's my job here on this earth, or my service, I should say.
Yeah.
I'm a coach. So I'll tell you guys this, like my whole life, when I was 18 years old, I wanted to be a therapist, and I was going to school to become a trauma therapist. I think maybe you remember that. I was in school and I was going to breathwork. I was miserable in school. Breathwork told me, quit school. It's not serving you. I quit school, quit going to school to become a therapist, became trauma informed through different trainings and breathwork. And now I am a coach and I'm holding space for people, but it just looks different. I'm not working for anyone. I don't have to do paperwork if I don't want to. And actually I get to provide, I think, even more impact than I would if I was a therapist working in the system. So I'm basically doing what I've always wanted to do. It just looks different.
Yeah.
Are the majority of your clients, or I don't want to call them clients, but people that you work with in recovery?
No.
No?
No. Mm-mm. Some are, some
not
aren't.
SUD recovery. They're recovering from something.
Yeah,
probably,
I have
right?
a client right now actually who's in recovery. Okay. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I work with men and women, but it's anyone who just wants a better way to live, you know. And I would love to have more clients in recovery.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to work with me, let me know. Yeah.
Last question. Is it something that, like, if you're in recovery, is it something you should wait to have like a foundation in your recovery, or is it something you can just start off at the beginning? You know what I'm saying?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because you know how some people, when you don't want to get into trauma right off the rip, you know, you want to make sure that you got a foundation like you did, like I did, you know, first.
Yeah, and be like sober for a little bit. I think it's safe to do. I think there's I'm qualified to work with level 1 and 2 trauma, not necessarily level 3. So someone who's schizophrenic, I can't work with them, which is hard because a lot of time we are dual diagnosis with addiction as well. So it's kind of like a by person basis, you know. Also, if there's history of seizures, high blood pressure, pregnant.
I'm sure that's got to be,
Yeah, so I have to be careful. And that's the thing, too, is that there are facilitators that are out here and they're unsafe, you know. There's also an integration process that goes into this afterwards. So it's like you have all this new awareness. Maybe you just process the deepest trauma of your life. And I'm going to say, oh, have a good day. See you later. And leave you with that. No, I'm going to call you the day after and a week after, and we're going to talk about what came up for you, because you might not process something in the session, but it could come up 3 days from now or 3 weeks from now.
Right.
Because we're working deeply with our own energy. So, I'm not a healer. You know, people use that term, oh, you're a healer. You're your own healer. I'm just a guide. That's
Yeah,
it.
I like
I'm
that.
just here to
That's
help
cool.
guide you. I just am educated on how to facilitate breath work. That's it. You know, but
Are you opening and closing a trauma?
me,
Does
so
that make sense? Like, you know,
so
they say like like you're open, you got to close the loop and the different things.
I would say in my sessions, so I'll explain to you how my sessions work.
Okay.
Okay, so I take very ceremonial shamanic aspects and combine them with breath work. So I call my sessions breathwork ceremonies. So you come in, we'll create the space, maybe meditate, create the space, and then the music and myself will take you on a journey. So it's like you go up, or maybe in this case, you go really deep. You meet yourself wherever you need to meet yourself, and then I'll bring you back out. And that's why I do the sound healing at the end.
Oh, nice.
Because people really fall into deep, deep meditation. Like yesterday, this girl's like, I just fell asleep. I was like, no, honey, like you needed
It's
that.
like a bowl. You do
Yeah,
a bowl?
the
I
crystal
love that.
bowls.
Yeah.
So I guide them through breath work, like intensive breath work, and then at the end I do the
Yeah.
sound healing to kind of bring you back down. Because what happens if I break you open like that, and I'm like, okay, see ya. Like,
Well, that's what I was asking. Yeah, like
no,
you gotta,
there's
I
a
was wondering
way.
how you did that.
Yeah, like
yeah.
a structure. Like it's not a free for all, you
Right.
know. And there are facilitators that will pick any random songs
Right.
that will not open the space or close the space. Like we close the space together, and in fact,
Name them.
and in fact,
Look in the camera. Tell over there.
yeah, you know who you are.
Yeah,
Okay,
You
stop
already
doing
know
that.
who you are.
Stop doing that. Stop being so careless. Yeah, but you have to come, and I'd love to work maybe with the guys sometime.
I'm down.
Yeah,
I'll do
Absolutely.
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so I think we're at like the hour. Like, I just want to give you, or we want to give you a couple seconds, like whatever you want to say. Tell us like how people find you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or like I don't know. I'm not good at that part. Like,
Thank you,
know,
thank
your
you, yeah.
hashtags or whatever.
Hashtag,
Yeah.
no,
Handle,
thank you.
right?
Handle, yeah.
First of all, I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you guys so much for inviting me on here. Because
Absolutely.
This has been really heartwarming for me and really eye-opening, and has really, I say it all the time how far I've come, but being here with you like really reminds me of how far I've come.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Absolutely.
And when you have support like this in your life, it means the world, because so many people
Absolutely.
come and go, you know, but you've like really stuck by my side. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad to make a new friend.
same.
So Divine Emergence. So on Instagram at divine_emergence or www.divineemergence.org. You can schedule a call with me on there, a connection call. I also have an upcoming retreat in November in Ellijay, Georgia. It's in the mountains. It's breathwork and nature focused. So it's going to be really awesome.
That sounds
Hiking to
cool.
the waterfalls, breathwork, Ayurvedic chef. So if you want to go on my retreat, let me know.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to tag you on
Yeah.
when we
Tag
do
me.
the clips.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When we
I
do a
would love
clip or a
that.
reel, we'll tag you on it. That way people
Please
can find
tag
you.
me, yeah, because I offer sessions online and in person. So if someone's not here in the state, I totally offer sessions online. So
That's awesome.
coaching and breath work.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah. Thanks for
guys.
coming. This was
Thank
really
you so
important
much.
for us. This was awesome.
Okay, thank you.
That's all we got.
That's all we got, guys.